name is Al-Baba Imad. I'm working in the field of agriculture and environment since the year 1994 after obtaining my first MSc in zoology and aquaculture, followed by another postgraduate diploma in wildlife management planning from India, whereas I managed to stay in the forest for 3 months, just in a very harsh situation. Then I did my last MSc in natural resources management and their natural resources sustainability and their management. I managed to publish 41 scientific articles and one book. It's already available in the Amazon. In addition to that, I was involved in many regional projects and initiatives concerned with different things, including honeybees, whereas I managed to study some viral disease of honeybees, and I was the only Palestinian who did this job, followed by studying the foraging plant species. This is the title of one publication made by me in the year 2015, whereas I managed to get a preliminary list of important honeybee, nectiferous, and polliniferous plant species in the Palestinian West Bank governorates. Of course, it's a fact that beekeeping depends not only in the best practices applied by the beekeepers themselves, but also in the availability and the abundance of sources, food sources, likewise pollen sources and nectar sources in the surrounding areas. Palestine as a small country, even the historical Palestine itself, it's located as a connecting points between 3 continents. This geographical location gave Palestine a lot of things, including the diversity of the plants and the species occurring in this small area. If you compare the Palestinian flora and fauna with many countries around the world, you will find that the diversity of the flora and fauna in Palestine is greater many times to those countries. The climate in the Palestinian is another supporting factor that enable having a lot of diverse plants that serve the honeybees. The biogeographical zones we got in Palestine, almost 5 biogeographical zones from, if we start from the west towards the east, it's the coastal region, which is bordering the Mediterranean Sea, then the semi-coastal region, then the central highlands, whereas different plants from different continents are occurring in those diverse biogeographical zones. There are many plants in Palestine, including 130 families. Some studies show that the West Bank area itself hosts around 2,800 plant species. These facts are recorded in the Bible of the Flora of Palestine, which is called again Flora of Palestine. When it comes to the honeybees itself, honeybees are looking for their requirements just to fulfill their needs. The essential nutritional requirements of honeybees are as follows. For instance, the protein, which is amino acid, the carbohydrates, minerals, fats, vitamins, etc. Bees do collect and consume the plants, likewise the nectar or pollen or water, just to fulfill their needs for surviving. For instance, if we look at the nectar, or bees do transform the nectar into honey, which is their principal source of carbohydrates, provide them with energy for flight, for colony maintenance, heating, cooling, clearing the hive itself, and general daily activities. If we look at the pollen is also called bee bread, is the primary protein source for honeybees. It it contains fats and lipids, minerals, etc. But it's the main component, the main primary source of the honeybees of the protein. If you look at the chemical analysis of the pollen composition, you will find that water is there, protein, and the percentage of each item. In the study mentioned as a title of this presentation, I decided to study the nectiferous plant and polleniferous plant. At the time, I employed a combination of methodology, including the existing literature survey and publication, in addition to field survey. When it comes to the field survey, bi-weekly, I managed to visit randomly selected places in the West Bank governorates, such as nature reserve, agricultural farms, or field. At the time, we do lay, or we laid 4-line transit, 1,000-meter length each, just to just to monitor the foraging bees on the plant itself. And we decided to stay for 10 minutes and to take pictures to monitor and record each and every plant within a radius of 2 meters. So this is the methodology applied. Photography, not all the plant, of course, known to me. That's why I decided to take some photos and being returned back to my places to identify the plant there. Based on that, or myself, I found that there's 3 types of plants, and I grouped them in 3 groups: nectiferous plant and polleniferous. And some plants, they do produce nectar as well as pollens. Our results showed that there's around 143 nectiferous and polleniferous plant species belonging to 37 families. The dominant family, whereas the representative are there, is the Compositae family, then followed by Lamiaceae family of plants. Here you see the percentage distribution of nectiferous and polleniferous plant species by family. As you see, we do mean here the representative of each and every family mentioned here. Here you see the distribution of food rewards in percentages of nectiferous and polleniferous. Of course, 86% of the plant they manage to get from the nectar and pollen. 20% of nectar is there in some plants, and 12% of pollens are in other plants. In conclusion, of course, as I mentioned before, we got 143 taxa of plants identified as a potential foraging plant for honey in Palestine. The limiting factor could be overcome by increasing those plants. At least 6 plant species out of our studies, these are helides and etc. They do produce nectar as well as they do produce pollen and nectar in the same time. They bloom for a lengthy period of time. Many plants found as a source of nectar or pollens, they do bloom several times a year. This is a link to the article itself. If you just want to have a look at the article already published and available in the ResearchGate in my account. Here you see the whole set of the article with all data, with conclusion if you are interested, and the DOI is there. These are some representative of plants noticed during our study, and their names, scientific names. All right. The ficus, or the cactus, but it's called ficus in Latin, Ficus indica. The acacia and the rosemary of Chenal, by the way, it's blooming several times a year. And the honeybees, they do forage on this plant mainly happily they do forage in the rosemary officinalis. Again, eucalyptus, one of the main sources. By the way, in some countries surrounding us here in Palestine, they purchased seeds from Australia and they offer it as roadside plants in one hand, and it's a source of pollens and nectar. Some species of eucalyptus are source of nectar in parallel. So it's a win-win approach. The cities getting benefited out of cleaning the roadsides in one hand, and in the other hand, the bees, they do forage and enjoy having nectar and pollen sources. The sage or Salvia officinalis, Miramille, and other plants, the sunflower. So these are, as I say, bees are there and they do happily forage and collect either the nectar or the pollens from different plants.